I started collecting elongated pennies, was collecting all the old ones, and they start from 1893 to current. So from 1893 to the 1930s is whenever most of the old coins that really look cool, they're hand carved, are fun to collect because they're just pieces of art. They're neat to look at. Then there was a dark period where nothing was happening after from the war up until about the 60s, whenever elongated pennies started being popular again, when guys started buying their own machines and using lithograph photography and exposing die plates and etching them with acid and making their own. And now you can collect those elongated pennies. They're from the 1960s to the 1980s. There's a catalog. It's actually a tome, I call it, because it's like this thick, and it's got probably 70,000 pennies in it. This guy cataloged, and it's insane. So it's a fun hobby. It's an inexpensive hobby, and it's one that you can continually get because there's still penny machines being made. And since there's so many, if you are interested in collecting them, it's best to focus on something. Some people focus on an animal or a state or whatever, and I picked Oregon. And I started collecting the Oregon pennies, and it was most of the ones that you would roll. So you'd go to the OMSI or to any of the venues, and you'd roll a penny. And the resources that I was using was the Penny Collector. It's a nationwide website, and this is just one long web page that looks like this, and you kind of have to click on the photo, and then it opens up another one, and they have these really low resolution images to try to see what you're trying to collect. Then there was another one. This website is actually an app that it works better on your phone and has a map. It uses Google Maps so you can see where you're at in relation to where a penny is. It's user driven, so it's inaccurate, and you have to do a lot of corrections if you so like to do that. So trying to catalog them, this website here has the ability to catalog what's in there. So if you collected it, you can say, I have that. But if there's a penny that's not on there, you can't add it and you can't catalog it. So the weakness on both of these is you can't really catalog your collection. So I started with a spreadsheet to catalog my collection, which is just all text. It worked all right, but whenever I was at a coin show and I saw a penny that said Seaside, Oregon, and then it had a picture of something on it, I'd have to try to find it. It just got laborious. So my other idea was I'll start taking photos of the pennies and upload them to a folder, a shared folder that I can look at on my phone. So now when I'm at a coin show or out in Oregon somewhere, I could look at my spreadsheet, I could look at the date, I could look at the folder and see if I had that coin. But then whenever I saw a coin that I hadn't seen before, I was now having to look at my spreadsheet, look at my folder, look at the Penny Collector, look at the other Penny Collector website, and it just got to be a mess. So it just didn't work. So this is about whenever a COVID hit and all the restrictions, and coin collecting fun just kind of went to eBay, and that was about it. So I thought, well, I might as well learn something while I'm not doing anything. And so I said, well, why not? If it's make a website for myself, so then I can access this website, and it'll be searchable, it'll have high quality pictures on it, and I'll also make it available to the two other people that are interested in collecting Oregon elongates. So, but that's not really the point. This was for me to learn and for me to catalog my own collection. So my goals were to catalog all of the Oregon elongates, take photos of the elongates, and make a website available to the public. Yes, Steve?
You know that elongated penny guy that was up there, he was like a Tacoma, or not Tacoma, South Tacoma. Anyway, you know where he went?
The museum was bought, and I think the guy who bought it lives in Florida. So, yeah, he had an incredible collection. It was they actually had a big museum dedicated to elongates up into the 60s.
Did
So
you actually get to look at it?
I never got to look at it, no. So I started collecting info from eBay, Penny Collector, PressPenny.com, the books that I have, and internet search results, because you still can just type in Oregon elongated pennies and you get some pictures of random, things. And so I thought there'd be like a couple hundred to catalog and I'd be done, in no time at all. Well, so, that didn't really work out, because so far I've cataloged 723 pennies, and just in the last couple of months I've noticed that I have to add a few more machines. So the number keeps growing, and we'll do our best at the coin show to make it happen too. We roll pennies each time.
723?
Pardon?
Is it just in Oregon?
That's anything that's tied to Oregon. It doesn't necessarily have, say, Oregon on it, but it's tied, if it has provenance to Oregon. Like I've got one from the 80s that commemorates the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Well, it says Mount St. Helens on it. You would think it's a Washington penny, but I have provenance. The guy who made the die was rolling it and selling them at the Rose Festival. So I think I'm going to call it an Oregon penny. It was rolled in Oregon. So, and there is a Lord's Prayer penny from the 40s. That there was actually a guy that made penny machines in the 40s here, and every penny machine that he made had the Lord's Prayer on it. And he was rolling that at one of the Rose Festivals and got arrested for by the feds for defacing currency, or not currency, but pennies. And that's what started the whole thing that made it legal. And there was a decision that said that no, you're not. The defacing thing is for the intent of fraud. This isn't fraud. So,
Do you have one of those?
I haven't got enough research to figure out which one it is yet. But yeah,
Do you
so
have some Lord's Prayers?
those there's a bazillion of those.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a whole. I mean, in the books there's a 40 pages of Lord's Prayer varieties. So it's pretty. You can collect just those alone. So, and to photograph, I have a copy stand with a SLR camera, and what I found that worked best, I tried all the different, photo lighting techniques for elongated pennies, the 1 light, 2 lights, 4 lights, sunlight. None of it worked. The elongated pennies are just an odd duck trying to photograph them. So I found that the ring light worked the best, and this thing here we'll talk about, and whenever we're going to be doing a series on photography on coins, but that's a light trap that I devised, and that gives me a dead flat background that I don't have to Photoshop in. So it's kind of a cool little piece. And the other thing that I like about collecting elongated pennies is if it's crooked, I can bend it straight and nobody cares. If you want to clean them, go ahead, they're yours. I mean, they discourage that for like an 1893 Columbian Exposition, or any of those 1930 4 World Spares and stuff. You want to keep those natural, but any of the modern stuff, do whatever you want. So it's kind of fun to do whatever you want on coins. And so one of the problems when you photograph elongated pennies is a lot of them, when they come out of the dies, they develop a curl. They have a bit of a crown on them. And taking a photo with that is just a mess, because you'll get a nice exposure on the surface, but the edges are just they're like 2 or 3 stops dark, because the light isn't reflecting back into the camera, it's reflecting away from the lens. So I devised this piece. I took this piece of hardwood and I got a curve in it, and then I would just take a piece of dowel and just use it like a rolling pin, and to reverse that curve a little bit, and then flatten the penny right out, and I was able to take a picture. And
so you're flattening to take the picture and then rolling them back up?
No, I leave them flat, because then they sit in my pages better too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Other collectors not object to that?
Nope, not at all. That's perfectly acceptable.
I like that.
Yeah.
There's only 2 other collectors.
Right. There's only 2 other collectors. Yeah.
And you're the president of the club.
And I'm the president of the club. Right. Yeah. So the minimum that you need to learn if you're ever wanting to do a website for yourself or personally would be HTML and CSS. I mean, you could do a website with just HTML, but it's going to look like horrible. It's going to be, look like those wonderful web pages from the 80s, if we all remember those. CSS is a scripting language. It makes it look a little prettier, and JavaScript is a nice function for making things visible, invisible. You can do math. You can do anything with JavaScript. So these are the kind of the basic things that you would need to know to make a website. And to learn this, I used an online place that's called Udemy, and they have very reasonable. Yes.
I was just going to say, my 1893 is a nickel.
Yep, they're rolled on nickels too, and dimes as well. So Udemy is a nice online learning source. It's not just for coding. They have everything. If you want to learn how to, whatever you can think of, there's someone who's probably instructing it. And the classes were online video lectures with homework, and they were great. It was kind of a learn at your own pace, and they were anywhere from 20 hours of videos to 80 hours of videos, depending on what course you went through. And they're all reasonable. They're like on sale for $13. It wasn't really that bad of a deal. I mean, I got way more enjoyment out of this $39 than I would have with Netflix for 3 months. So, but that's just me. So this is my website that I did end up creating. This is a little beyond just HTML and CSS. Doing the search box would be a little bit of a challenge, but this is the type of thing that you could do. The big issue with HTML is you have to create a web page for everything. So you'd have a web page that you created. You made this web page. Then when you link to your news or your search or your join, you would have to make a whole another web page along with your other links, anything. So like on this web page, I have like 12 web pages behind that I've had to create. And this is one of them. So we clicked on the venues link, and here's a list of venues. There's 124 venues that are associated with elongated pennies. OMSI, A.C. Gilbert, the museum, Salem, Riverfront Carousel, A&W in Lapine, Oregon. I mean, just all sorts of them. So it's pretty extensive, and for cities. So there's 2 more web pages that you would be writing out of just plain HTML. So then we clicked on A.C. Gilbert's, and then there's some of the coins that are associated to A.C. Gilbert. So there's another web page that you just created. But now if you want to see more information on any one of these coins, you click on it again, like we all do, and there's 3 more web pages that you created just for one more venue. And then this is where your JavaScript to come in. You can see a higher resolution image of the coin. So the big issue with just doing straight HTML is you've got a lot of coding. So what's wrong with just learning just these basic things is just out of the basic math for if after the navigation page here, if every venue had 3 coins, or roughly, if every coin of the 700 coins, you have 3 pages related to it, that's 21 pages that you're having to code manually. That would really
And you did
suck.
that?
No, I did not do that.
You
So,
need a longer pandemic.
right, you would. So once I got going, then I realized, well, this really isn't the way to go. So guess what it was? It was back to learning something else, and that was PHP and MySQL. So Udemy, give you another $30, and we'll spend untold hours learning more stuff. So PHP is a popular general-purpose scripting language that's suited for web development. I don't really know if it's used for anything else other than server-side web stuff. That's all it does. And then there's MySQL. MySQL is an open-source relational database management system. And a relational database is if you think of a spreadsheet that has information on it, and another spreadsheet that has information on it, and they tie together. So if you reference this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet. So my website has 14 spreadsheets that all tie together and talk to each, and and MySQL and PHP does all this magic whenever you code it, and it does all this stuff. But the advantage with that is if I add a venue, it's just automatically populated onto the page. So if another venue opens up, I just put it into that one database table. Whenever you click on this link, boom, it's just automatically there. So you didn't have to code, anymore. It's just automatically done. And so that was the advantage of learning that. Basically, those 2,100 pages are now boiled down to 3 pages, independent PHP pages that generate the code dynamically. So it's pretty powerful, and it's a worthwhile. I thought it was a worthwhile endeavor, for the 2 other people that look at my site. So, all in total for OregonElongates.com, I have close to 1,000 hours invested in this, and that's through learning, through the research, programming, screwing it up, figuring out what I did wrong, programming again, cataloging and photographing. So, but I mean, it's obviously we're all crazy. We're here, coin collectors. So there's not really any justification. This is something I wanted to do and to learn. There's no money to be made off of this. I just really like it. And so on my webpage, you can sign up as a member, and then if you click on a coin, you go, oh, I have this coin, and you can catalog some minor information about how much you paid for it, when you got it, and its quality. Would you like to upgrade it, or is it the best one you think you got? And then whenever you load this web page, there's a little green check mark by it. So when I'm at a coin show, I can pull up, or I can search in the search box and for octopus, and it'll pull up all of the items that have all of the coins that have an octopus on them, and then it has a green check mark by the ones that I have, or it doesn't have a check mark by the ones I don't have. So it's an easier way to identify the coins. So that's was my journey into to making websites and making a website. Yeah.
What did you do for photos of coins you didn't have?
So I have had reached out to Facebook. There are some elongated collecting websites or Facebook pages. The elongated collectors, the TEC, the society. There's members that have been contributing. Like I've got a couple of members that I have to arrange to go meet with them, and then I'll be, or they'll come to my house and I'll take the coins. So I have roughly 500 and some odd of them in my own personal collection. And but yeah, even Dan West, he let me take home his Lewis and Clark Expo pennies that I didn't have, and so I got to photograph those. And so it's hard to look at pennies that you need on your website. You don't see the check mark, but yeah. So it's pretty far along. The one thing I still need to figure out is the SEO, search engine optimization. Google is really finicky about getting your website searched. I mean, it's gone through some of it, but I need to restructure some things so that it'll be friendlier. So when you type in, Seaside, Oregon, elongated penny, I don't show up on the 3rd page. I like to show up on the 1st. So, but yeah.
Having said that, have a lot of people found it and or contributed?
Yeah, I have a bit of traffic, but because I'm like on the 2nd or 3rd page, depending on how you search. I'm not there. Most of the people has been driven from links, from Facebook or from other coin sites. But yeah, people are starting to show up. So yeah. But that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yep.
You using a macro lens or what?
Yeah, I am. I have a 120 millimeter macro on my SLR, and yeah, it'll make. I mean, those coins are like 36. You can make a 36-inch poster with them. They're pretty impressive.
24,000. 24,000 at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much, I've always found these, in piles, they're very little. I've spent almost no money, like a nickel or a dime for these things. How much do you spend for some of these, like the Lewis and Clark ones?
So in the older ones, like the Lewis and Clark Expos, the ones that are very common, you can expect to pay $24, dollars and up, just depending on the quality. There are some of them that I've paid, well, my wife's here, but a couple $100 for, just because they're hard to find, and some of them are just cross collectible. One of those is a frog. It has a frog on it, and it says Webfoot. So not only do Lewis and Clark Expo people collect it, but people collect frogs and just all sorts. So it drives the prices of those up. And the old ones are difficult because whenever you see them, you have to buy them. You can't just go, "I'll get that later," because like that one piece, I bought it, and because I'll never see it again.
Yeah.
So, but the modern stuff, obviously the ones you can still roll are 51 cents each. But like whenever if you're on a Facebook group, if someone says, "Hey, I'm going to Crater Lake," and they'll generally sell a set to you for $5, and it's shipping and just the convenience of them having them do that. If it's a retired full rolled set and it's modern, retired to be the machine was removed and replaced or just removed, you can expect to pay $5 or not $5, but $8 for a set of 4, and then just loose ones, dime to whatever. Some people on eBay think they've got a gold mine there, but a couple dollars for something from the 80s isn't unreasonable. So,
How long have you been doing it?
I've been collecting elongateds. I don't know when we were in the Multnomah Village still, probably 7, 8, 10 years, yeah, somewhere in there. But yeah, well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Impressive.
Yeah.